Hey everyone, happy Friday. It's time for Down to the Wire on the Vegas Insider Network, presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Joe Madden. We are live here Monday through Friday between 6 and 7 o'clock Eastern. You can catch myself every Wednesday and Friday. On today's show, I will be welcoming in first Vegas Insider handicapper Stephen Nover. Will be followed up by Allie Burns. Now, I want to say a big congratulations to everyone who tailed one of my Wednesday best bets with the over between the Steelers and the Browns. What a game we had last night, with the Browns getting the win 29-17 over the Steelers. Now, I also want to remind you guys that I did give out on Wednesday the other best bet is Syracuse. That game is tonight, laying the 9.5 over Virginia. But let's jump into tonight's best bets, you guys. I'm looking at the matchup between Nevada and Air Force. Now, this one kicks off at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. Both of these teams coming in off a loss. This is the Mountain West Conference matchup. This game is going to be intense. We've got two really solid defenses. But I think the really big difference here is Air Force is able to get the points on the board. I really do see Nevada, the Wolfpack, struggling tonight. I don't trust in their quarterback. He showed struggle, Shane Illensworth, in the last matchup against Iowa there. I don't think that he'll come out strong enough in this one. I don't think he'll have the time in the pocket versus this Air Force defense. It's going to be all over him tonight. I'm going to look at taking Air Force in the first half to cover that first half spread. We're laying 2 touchdowns here. It is 14 points. I know it's a lot, but I worry kind of about that backdoor cover at the end of this game by Nevada if they control that time. And I think with Air Force being at home in this one, they're going to come out nice, hard, and strong to start this game off. So give me Air Force laying the 14 here. I think they're in for a fantastic night. I think you can also look at their first quarter as well, you guys. But it's time. Now, let's move on to talk about our app. If you love what we have here at Vegas Insider, you're going to absolutely want to check out our brand new app. We've got up-to-date and easy to navigate odds in every single major sport, you guys. We have all our latest shows, best bet videos and podcasts, props, trends, futures, news, all free on the Vegas Insider app. Download the Vegas Insider app right now on Apple and Android devices. Bet better with Vegas Insider app. Now, you guys, it's time to welcome Stephen Nover to the show, Vegas Insider handicapper. Stephen, how are you today?
Hi, Joe. How are you? And by the way, congratulations if you had over in the Steelers-Browns.
What a game that was, Stephen. I couldn't believe it. Even that last touchdown, when the Steelers were trying to get something going for the Browns to get those extra 6 points.
Well, it was, let's throw that out because the over-under was decided when Tomlin made that decision to kick a field goal, 4th and 1. And I'm sitting there with the Steelers plus 4.5, praying that he'll go for it on 4th and 1. And I have this theory. I'm alone on the island with this. No one's going to agree with me, but see if perhaps you might agree with me. I feel obviously a coach's obligation, first and foremost, win the game. But when you cannot win the game, and the Steelers could not win that game, they're not going to do it with Trubisky. In that situation, they're not going to win the game. But they could have covered the spread. And Tomlin should have gone for it on 4th and 1 and tried to cover at least the spread there. He's got to get a touchdown and a field goal anyways, so at least go for the touchdown. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. We saw that in a couple of situations last year as well, these coaches going for that easy 3 points instead of the touchdown when it is a 2-score game. I don't understand the logic behind that, but we know Mike Tomlin is a fantastic coach. Is it time that he listens to everyone screaming about pulling Trubisky to put Pickett in there?
Well, obviously, I don't think he thinks Pickett's ready yet. I think as soon as they get Pickett up to speed, they're going to get him in there. And I actually thought before the season started, Trubisky might do better than what he's shown so far. He's always had the mobility, and he's got good receiving weapons there, and he's got a decent running back. I understand the offensive line is terrible, but and Trubisky's just he's still terrible. He misses. He makes wrong reads. He's not throwing to the right people. He's not accurate. He's very limited. He's easy to defend against. And so, if Tomlin, he's going to be hard pressed to pull his magic to at least get another 500 season with that team. Not helping matters is losing T.J. Watt.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge blow to the defense there, losing TJ Watt. I want to hear what you thought on that catch by George Pickens last night. I was riding him for an anytime touchdown. It looked like he was going to get the opportunity to get one, but just didn't get it. But that catch was something else.
Tremendous catch, tremendous athlete. As you know, I may know I'm from Wisconsin, so I closely follow the Packers, and I was hoping the Packers would have drafted him, and they traded up to take Christian Watson, who, in my opinion, Pickens is a lot better and a lot more ready to play. So what Pickens does, talent-wise, does not surprise me at all, Joe. He's a tremendous athlete.
Yeah, it was definitely great to see him get targeted last night after really complaining openly to the media that he was open 90% of the game versus the Patriots. I knew he was going to be a target last night. I wish I rode his over reception on that one.
Well, what can he do? Why is he griping? I mean, Mitch Trubisky, his quarterback. He can't get him the ball. So why complain about it? He can't do anything about it.
Absolutely, he can't. But let's move on to Sunday football, Stephen. I know you have some good opinions and leans for us in some of these games. Let's start by talking the Lions, the Detroit Lions versus the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Vikings off Monday Night Football, where Kirk Cousins just pulled a Kirk Cousins. He does not play well in prime time, throwing to the Eagles like they were his teammates, versus the Detroit Lions, who have Jared Goff. What are your thoughts in this one? We know the Lions have been putting up the points on the board. Got a total sitting around 52.5. You got a side here or a total for us?
If I get involved in it, it won't be on the under. I mean, Detroit's, been an over machine. I think going back to last year, their last 4 games, all overs, and they haven't been close. I mean, they're just going way over the total. Their defense still remains terrible, but their offense has picked up. DeAndre Swift and this Amon St. Brown, these guys are becoming superstars. And Jared Goff is in his element when he's in a controlled climate like he will be here in a dome. He's got weapons, and as long as he's not in a cold weather situation, he can find these weapons. And Minnesota's defense is not elite by any means. Their cornerbacks are slow. They're probably not going to have Harrison Smith, just a tremendous safety. He suffered a concussion against the Eagles. And Cousins, this is a below-the-radar game. It's not national TV, so Cousins will probably have a good game, and he's got great weapons too. I mean, both Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, they're going to come back with big games here.
Now, do you think this is going to be a big enough game for Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings that they can cover this 5.5 spread, Stephen?
I'm not going to I wouldn't lay that. I mean, all the Lions do is cover spreads now. I think Dan Campbell, I think he's a goofball, but the Lions seem to play hard for this guy. They don't quit, and they can backdoor these scores where they get way down by a couple touchdowns. They play hard to the gun. Their offense has become very respectable now. So, again, if I decide to get involved with a side, it won't be the Vikings, Joe.
Yeah, after Monday's night's performance, I really am with you here. I find it hard to lay 5.5 with the Vikings. We know they came out in week 1 against Green Bay, had such a dominant game, but I don't know if that was more after what we saw Monday night of the Packers just not showing up in that first game of the season. Any thoughts on that?
Well, Packers didn't show up the first game of the season last year against the Saints and got buried. They did not handle Justin Jefferson. They had the wrong strategy to try to bottle him up. You got to kind of control the guy. The Vikings are going to play much better than they did on Monday. But I'd rather, and they're always involved in close games, the Vikings. It's always what they set the record last year, where practically every one of their games was decided on the final play. So I can't lay with the Vikings.
Okay, so lean on the Detroit Lions here, plus the points, and I'm hearing the over as well, over 52.5 in this one. Let's move on to the next game. We're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now, the Bucks coming in as 1.5-point favorites here at home. We've got a total that has dropped off significantly from 47.5 down to 41.5. We know Mike Evans is out for Tampa Bay on that suspension. Cole Beasley has stepped in. It looks like we will see him out on the field. We've got two fantastic quarterbacks here, Stephen. Two quarterbacks that have made us a lot of money over the years. Where are you going with this one?
Well, two quarterbacks are going to probably hand the ball off a lot in this game. And it's too bad because, the Rodgers and Brady don't get to hook up too often in their careers. But right now, the Packers' passing attack is just a total progress and work. I mean, they just find out that Sammy Watkins might help them out. And, of course, Sammy Watkins is hurt now. And so he's going to be of no use to them Sunday. They're best off doing what they did against the Bears, is hand the ball to Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon or throw short passes to those guys. Both of them actually have very good hands, are very good receivers. I think the tight end, Robert Tonyan, Rodgers is comfortable with him. He could be involved, especially in the red zone. With no Watkins and Rodgers, they're going to have those rookies, Dobbs, the guy from Nevada, and Dobbs, and Christian Watson, who, as I've already stated, I'm not a fan of his. So I think you'll see a conservative approach from Green Bay. And with Tampa, I mean, Brady, his weapons are down. He's not going to have Mike Evans, his best wide receiver. Godwin, I probably is not going to play again. So I've got some other wide receivers that are banged up. Who knows about Julio Jones? He's already hurt. And Leonard Fournette is banged up. I mean, if Fournette doesn't play, this Rachaad White is going to, get a massive amount of touches, and he's just a rookie. So both defenses are ahead of their offenses with these teams, and people think of these teams, Joe, like, oh yeah, there's all the superstars are on offense. No, there's as many, if not more, superstars on the defense of these two teams.
Yeah, I agree with you here. And when we look at Tampa Bay and the Bucks led by Tom Brady likes his weapons. And without those weapons on the field, I do think you're right. I do think he turns to more of a running style game in this one. So do you, though, think this total of 41.5 is too low? Do you think both of these teams are topping out at that 20 mark in this game?
It is so tempting, to see those two quarterbacks in a total that low. I mean, it is tempting to go over that, but I need more information. The Packers got Jenkins back last week. He's their most versatile offensive lineman, their second best lineman. Their best is Bakatari, who's played like once in the last 2 years. He's their left tackle. He protects Rodgers' blind side. I think he's going to play this week, which would make a huge difference, but I've thought that in other games with him, and he hasn't played. So I want to know that before I, decide to get it in over. I'll say this, though, Joe. I'm not going to go under. The time to go under is you had to be right up there at the beginning of the week when the line move started. It's because, 47, 48, that's going to be an under. But now that it's, the market's really smooth this off at 41, 42. That's awfully low in today's NFL.
That is so low, especially with these defenses. And if one of these teams gets a pick six, that will push us over in this game. So is there any players you would be looking at for any player props in this one, Stephen?
Oh, nothing jumping out on me unless I can get maybe huge odds on Tonyan maybe scoring a touchdown. I think Rodgers could look to him in the red zone. But no, this doesn't. And I like props. I really like player props, but this one really doesn't stand out to me much. I think maybe if you can get an over/under on sacks, maybe look under. with the perception being that two great quarterbacks here, there'll be a lot of passes where I don't think there's going to be a lot of passes. I think there'll be a lot fewer passes than perceived. So maybe in under on quarterback sacks.
I like the way that you're looking at that. Let's move on to the next game. We have a Sunday night action here with the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Denver Broncos. Now, Denver has Russell Wilson. We know Russell Wilson was booed in Seattle. He was booed in Denver in that last game. They're coming in here as a 1.5-point dog at home. We've got a total of 44.5. No Trey Lance for the 49ers. Jimmy G stepping up. I like him here. The team looks more confident with Jimmy G. What are your thoughts on this game, Stephen?
What you say, Joe, makes perfect sense. It might be a blessing in disguise for the 49ers to have lost Lance where Jimmy G comes in. Now, long term, obviously, that's not good. It's certainly not good for Lance's career. Lance is, very exciting player. Jimmy G doesn't have anywhere near his mobility or his big play capability. But Jimmy G brings other things to the table that Lance doesn't have yet. I mean, Jimmy G with his experience, his reliability, he's more accurate than Trey Lance. He's not gonna be as mistake prone. And so in the short term, I think the 49ers are actually better off with Jimmy G behind center. And it changes the roles of a lot of his teammates around him. And plus, I think they get George Kittle for the first time this year. And in my opinion, George Kittle's the best all-around tight end in football. And the Broncos, they've got problems, and they have problems having played two bad teams so far, the Seahawks and the Texans. It's one thing to have problems after two games when you play two really good teams, but now they're really stepping up. And poor Russell Wilson, he just switches teams. He's already been booed at home, and he was booed on the road in week 1. He was booed at home in week 2. He hasn't been helped by Hackett, his new head coach, the decisions he's made. And so a tough situation here for Denver, even though they're the home team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I kind of think this line is a little bit disrespectful to San Francisco. I expected them to come in here as a larger favorite than they are, only laying 1.5 against this Denver team that's having so many issues, like you said. Were you shocked at this line at all?
Yes, I thought the Niners should be like a field goal. I think Denver's getting respect that they don't deserve. And the 49er defense is very good. I think Nick Bosa is right there with Aaron Donald as the best defensive lineman pass rusher in the NFC. And they know Russell Wilson. They've played this guy 2, 3, even 3 times during playoffs every year for the last 10 years. They know Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson, as much as I've liked and admired him through the years, he's slowing down. He's regressing. He didn't play well last year. You can say, well, he had the finger injury and they didn't have a very good offensive line behind him. Well, he hasn't shown any improvement this year so far. Maybe he'll start clicking, but Denver's, their receivers are dropping balls on him. They've committed already 25 penalties. They've had double digits in penalties the last 2 games. That hasn't happened to him in the last 4 years. Now, is that coaching again with Hackett, who's already just 2 games into his career, and he's being laughed at for the decisions that he's made? So, and their red zone, I mean, it's just been terrible, Denver, in the red zone. So, yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think the 49ers, the line is short here, and they were disrespected by this line.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So with us both thinking this line is too short at 1.5, what would you be comfortable taking this one up to if people are looking to play an extended line, Stephen? Would you take it up to that field goal, take it up to 3, or would you go higher?
Well, I don't want to get higher. I want to win. I don't want to take chances. But, yeah, I would take it up to a field goal. I mean, you're going to get an effort from Denver. It's kind of a circle of the wagons type of game for them. I just don't think they're the better team here. So I'd be okay laying a field goal. I don't know if I want to lay anything more, though, at the extended line or anything like that, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. it's all about winning at the end of the day. And we've got great odds on the 49ers here, just laying the 1.5. But up to that field goal, we're going to get even better odds. I think they can take it. I just don't see Denver coming out strong. This is one of those teams, so I think once they finally find some rhythm, especially offensively, that they are going to be able to win some games. But I don't see them doing it in this matchup here. Would there be anyone for player props that you'd be looking at for this one at all, Stephen?
Denver doesn't have their safety, Simmons. Justin Simmons, he's a tremendous player. He played in 66 straight games for them. He got injured week 1. He's out. Now, they may not have Patrick Surtain, who's a very good cornerback. He's questionable. If I had to guess, though, I would say he would play. But if I find out he's not playing either, I'm going to look at some of these receiver props for the 49ers, maybe Brandon Ayuk and some of those guys to see what those numbers are, because Jimmy G could get them the ball. And the numbers shouldn't be too high on them, because we all know the 49ers are extremely run-oriented, but I don't think they'll be quite as run-oriented, with Trey Lance now, who had the capability of being like a third running back there. They're not going to run Jimmy Garoppolo like that. So I'd be looking at some of the receiver props.
Okay, Stephen, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on Down to the Wire, presented by Vegas Insider, presented by BetMGM. Where can everyone find you on social media?
Well, I'm on. I try to make a few sarcastic tweets here and there. You can find me at Stephen Nover at Stephen Nover 1 on Twitter, and I enjoy interacting with people. And Joe, it's very good to see you. My apologies again for not being able to make it last week. I really apologize. I hope I didn't really leave you in the lurch with that. But enjoyed talking to you, and thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. I know that you have your picks for sale over on Vegas Insider. Do you quickly want to let us know what you have for sale this weekend so people can head over and grab them?
Well, I'm working on that today. I anticipate having at least 7 plays, and I'll have a number of player props that I'll be firing on too. So looking forward to continuing momentum, and hopefully I can have another good week.
Okay,
Thanks,
have a
Joe.
killer week, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining me here on Down to the Wire.
Thanks, Joe. Enjoyed it. Take care of yourself.
You take care too. We'll have you back soon. Okay, guys, that was Stephen Nover. Go give him a follow. Check out all of his bets over on the Vegas Insider Network. He's going to have a great weekend. I can feel it. But before we move on to Allie, our next guest, I just want to tell you about our friends from BetMGM. Kick off your new pro football season with the King of Sportsbooks. Sign up with BetMGM using bonus code VIBONUS, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. That's VIBONUS, all one word, no spaces, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Okay, guys, it is time to welcome Allie Burns to the show, host of the Morning Wood on Picks and Parlays. Allie, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Joe? It's always so fun to hang with you.
It is always great to have you. I'm so excited to have you here on the Vegas Insider Network. We're going to talk some MLB and some college football today.
Yes, indeed. Well, I've been really focused on line movement. That's kind of my jam that I'm really trying to make second nature to myself. And I study it all day long. I study before the games, and then I even study it after the games to see what I missed or what was it telling me. Because a lot of times it's easier. Well, every time it's easier to figure out the answer once the game's already over, So handicapping your handicapping is what I call it. It's important to handicap your handicapping and see what you were missing there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find that especially important after a loss, going back and seeing where those issues were. And in some of those cases, we can handicap it completely right, but then a coaching decision can be the difference.
Yes, or an injury, or a timeout, or a missed field goal. I mean, the last night Steelers Browns game, I read a thing that with that final touchdown, every single possible teaser combination was wiped out. I know my Steelers +10 under 44 was wiped out with that one move. I know Lenny lost some teasers on it as well. So, one little move can change the whole thing. But then as you look back at the line, you've got the 54% of the money on the Browns, and that line's climbing up because the other 54% or 52%, whatever it was on the other side of the tickets, was on the Steelers. So the book, I'm trying to speak the language of the book. What are these numbers telling me? What is the tale you're telling me? We don't mind making the Browns -4 because everyone's getting the Steelers +4, and we are not afraid of the Steelers +4 on all the tickets because the tickets are going to pay out more than the -110 on a side bet, on a spread bet. So that was kind of what I learned just from looking at that. But one of the games I want to talk about today, we'll talk about the Blue Jays and the Rays, okay? Because this line is doing something also that's a little bit funny. One thing I look for is when all the money is on an over. So or an under. The Blue Jays are playing the Rays tonight, right? That's going down. Mitchell White and Jeffrey Springs. Springs, I dig. Springs won 4 of his last 5. He's won his last 2 in a row. Mitch White, I am not that into. He's lost his last 2, gives up quite a few. Not my guy. But we've got this line here at a 7.5, and there's 55% of the money on the over. We've got 78% of the tickets on the over, but that 7.5 on my book is now a 7. So why is that line moving under if the money is pushing it over? So I am going to do it. I'm going to take the Blue Jays going under the total. That is how I feel about this going down tonight, because I feel like why wouldn't they bop that number up more? And especially not to mention that last night was a huge hitting night. Blue Jays, what was it? 10, I want to say it was 10-5 Rays.
Yes,
5 Rays. So it was 15 in that game were scored. Whenever that happens, I kind of like to bet it the other way the next day because I think the public kind of gets on it. So that's what I'm going to do there is Blue Jays under 7.5 if you can get it. I see 7s. The other one was the Astros game. We have 77% of the money is on the Astros, but the -151 is down to a 132 now, right? So this tells me it's reverse line movement. The line is moving the wrong way. So now I want to look towards the Orioles. Now, money line is great. I have no problem with a little plus number on the Orioles. However, on the run line, plus a 1.5 at -135, that's where I feel like the value really is. I mean, you could take Houston just to win the game outright at -132. Or you can pay that same price and get a 1.5 with the home team. So that's the way that I'm going to roll with that game as far as that goes. Now, the total on that has been driving me crazy all day. I was over, I was under, I was under, I was over. I think I finally landed on the over here.
The over 7.5.
I believe I have, but it's a little tricky. So when I made this play, it was 7.5. is what it opened at. It's all the money's on over 87%, right? And then when I looked at it, the line ticked to an 8, and I was like, okay, I dig that. But now I'm looking, and it's back down to a 7.5, but the juice is on the over. So this might actually, when I gave you my plays earlier in the day, I hadn't seen where the lines had come till now. So this might actually just be a stay away total for all of you. Maybe that's the advice I'm giving right now. But over is the way that I feel like I've got to play this one regardless. So I'm going to go Orioles run line and the over, and I'm going to take the Rays money line as long as that juice is compatible. -145. I would take the Rays on the money line, and I would take that under. And that is the way that I'm playing those 2 games. That's what I'm doing there.
Okay. So I know that you're looking a lot at that money movement. Do you take into account how much of the public are riding that team, those favorite teams, especially in the NFL, because we've seen the public be burned. We've seen the dogs coming in with a lot of these wins. What are you taking into account this weekend when looking at that?
So a lot of times what I'm looking for is how much money moves the number, right? So public betting doesn't typically move lines, right? Sharp money is really what's going to make a line move. But say, like I was saying with the Browns last night, right? Only 54% of that money was on the Browns. And the 3 went to a 4 and even a 4.5 right around kickoff time. So for only half the money to move that line 1.5 points, to me was a bit dramatic. Whereas in other games, 96% of the money won't move a line. So those are kind of the things I'm looking for, is where is it skewed? What doesn't make sense here? And that's what I do every day. I just kind of go through the slate and say, it's like that song from Sesame Street, that one of these things is not like the other. That's kind of what I'm going for. The Nevada Air Force game tonight is a great example. 67% of the money is on the over, 73% of the tickets are on the over, and the 49 moves to a 47. So for me, that's an underplay. It's fading the money, right? All this money is doing this, but the line is going the other way. I'm going to listen to the line. Now, I also know that 47 is part of the over. Like the 49 wasn't getting bet over so much to where they moved it down. Part of this percentage is on the current number as well. So it's also part of picking that apart, as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it completely makes sense. And then I also look at this Nevada team here. I struggle to see how they're going to score against Air Force. We know both of these teams have top defenses, but I think Air Force is the only team that's going to be able to put the points on the board in this one, from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, Air Force defense is just on point, and they're coming off like a really wonky loss against Wyoming, and it's funny because I always make the comment that, I'm a big college basketball girl, but it goes for football too. Whenever you're playing Wyoming at home, you've got to be careful because the altitude in Laramie really makes a difference, especially in the second half of games. And then I was thinking but I bet the only team that wouldn't mind the altitude would be the Air Force, not to mention they're at 6,000 feet themselves. But Wyoming got them. That happened. Air Force is kind of in a weird spot because they're coming off the Wyoming loss, but they've also got Navy to play next week. But I don't think they get caught looking ahead here. I think this is a game that they need to kind of buckle down and right the ship and make it happen. So I don't know that I would lay 24 points, because this is another issue, right? 78% of the money is on Air Force minus 24, and they're not moving the number. Right. So that would lead me to think, take the 24 points with Boise with Nevada. And I've even thought maybe teasing Nevada with the under. So that would give you an under 53 and Nevada plus 30, which I don't hate.
Yeah, I like your look definitely with that there, Allie. For myself in this one, I looked at Air Force to come out strong in that first half. I worried about that backdoor cover because we all know it can happen. Both of these teams like to control that clock. And if we get Nevada controlling that clock in that last couple of minutes, I could see that backdoor cover coming in. So I'm writing the first half and the first quarter for Air Force in this one.
I like that play a lot. I like that play a whole lot, as a matter of fact. Good looking.
Well,
all right.
I love everything you've got going on today. Where can people find you on social media and all of your shows?
Wow, I am just all over the hot dang place right now because it's football season, y'all. It's football season. I don't know if you heard. But yeah, find me. So on Twitter, I'm at +moneyhoney. And more importantly, find us on YouTube. Picks and Parlays on YouTube, and just subscribe to that channel and ring the bell for notifications, because we go all day long. We have Sean Higgs with Midday Money starting at noon Eastern. Then my show Morning Wood comes on at 1. We've got Just Parlays with Scott Reichel at 2. At 3 Eastern every day, we do the NFL Power Hour. It's not all NFL. It's a football power hour, we'll call it. 5 p.m. we do Game Time Decision with Detroit Lenny and the Twins, and that's kind of like your last stop. Game time decision, kickoff is about to happen. Who do we bet on kind of situation show. So we're all over. And then I do Total Chaos, typically once a night, where I take 2 handicappers and put them head to head, and they give me the play on 5 totals of that day. So I'm all over the place, and I love it. And it's the season to make some money, and I am ready to do that.
Absolutely. We'll keep crushing the books. Allie, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on Down to the Wire.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me, Joe. I'll see you soon.
Good luck tonight.
You too.
Thank you. You guys, that was Allie Burns. Make sure you go give her a follow at Plus Money Honey on all socials. That brings me to my second best bet of the night. I am looking at the matchup on Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern between the Baltimore Ravens and the New England Patriots. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. Both of these teams have lost to Miami, with the Baltimore Ravens just having one of those games where their defense and their secondary shot themselves in the foot in that last game versus Miami. A lot of people do believe that this was Miami's ultimate comeback in that fourth quarter. I kind of look at it as it was a complete destruction of the secondary for the Baltimore Ravens. I think they can do better in this game, and I'm looking for them to have a strong one versus the New England Patriots. Now, the New England Patriots are heavy on the run game. They really can't rely on Mac Jones's arm, so I think they're going to play a solid run game here. But the problem is the Baltimore Ravens defense is so strong against that run. They're only allowing 84.5 rushing yards per game on average this season. I have to roll with Baltimore to have a strong game. And I think the best way to look at this is to look at their first half points. Now, we can get the over 10.5 on BetMGM and at minus 115, and I absolutely love it here. We have a Baltimore Ravens team that is putting up 31 points per game, 264.5 passing yards and 109 rushing yards. Lamar Jackson, he's already had 6 touchdowns on the season and only 1 interception there. He's completed 38 of his 59 passes. I really do think the Ravens come out just strong off that loss. I could see them even getting 2 touchdowns in this first half. I was shocked that it was as low as 10.5. So give me the Ravens laying the 10.5 in this matchup. I just don't see Mac Jones and the Patriots being able to stop them. I know their defense is solid, and the defense is holding the New England Patriots in this game, only allowing those 12 points per game. But this is time for the Ravens to correct what they did in that last game. Give me the over 10.5 in the first half. But you guys, it is time for today's handicapper heat check presented by VegasInsider.com, your home for the best expert picks in the business since 1997. Today, we are recognizing Vince Akins here, who can be found on Twitter at SB Breakers. Vince hit the West Virginia at Virginia Tech under last night, increasing his season record to 23-10. That's an impressive 70%. He also is 11-3 in college football in overs and underplays, you guys. He's just heating up right now. Vince has 2 picks posted for Friday night and a monster 13-pack of Saturday college football winners. Visit VegasInsider.com/picks to score his best bets or grab Vince's 3-day football package at a discounted price. That's your handicapper heat check. Stay hot, bettors. So just to recap, my best bets of the night, you guys, I'm going to take Air Force in the first half, laying the 14, those 2 touchdowns. I think they nicely cover that. And then I'm going to look at the Baltimore Ravens team total in the first half, over 10.5 versus the New England Patriots. Look for them to get those points on the board. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me here on Down to the Wire. I'm Joe Madden, and it was a pleasure being here with you. We are presented by BetMGM. Until next time, you guys, keep smiling. Let's make some freaking money. Enjoy your Friday night.